position that need advice, okay, call V. For those of you that want to buy the metals, call me, or not call me, forgive me, send me an email, steve777@stevequayle.com. I had a talk with my right-hand guy today. We actually have the talk every day, and we look at each other and we ask the question, how much longer? How much longer? And he's an astute brother in the Lord, knows the Scripture. But again, Doug, the thing is that I want everybody to ask themselves just that question tonight. If God himself were to speak that you only have 72 hours, and I'm not doing that because a 72-hour emergency kit. Someone says, well, how long should I plan for? 6 months.
Absolutely.
And if the grid goes down, that's the minimum, okay?
Yep.
And don't keep all your eggs in one basket. I mean, distribute your supplies, so if you can't get to point A, you can always go to point B. If A and B are cut off, you go to point C. The bottom line is have a plan. And by the way, Doug, next week I think we're going to be bringing on, with your permission, the guys from Full Spectrum Survival. They're the guys that do the 2-minute news.
Yep.
They've got a project that's amazing. They're two really talented guys. They walk the walk, they talk the talk, and they're putting out, I would say, the coolest survival videos with live action showing the types of situation. In other words, it's kind of like a all those things, but there's so many functional survival tips on what you can eat and where you can eat it. So the Full Spectrum, Brad and Mike of Full Spectrum Survival are going to come on, and these guys know what they're talking about, and they've got an amazing thing. I told them both tonight on the telephone before going on your show. I said, you better make haste, you guys, because this is no longer on your time frame. This is on the countdown timer. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, if you are totally invested in paper, we used to mock the Russians, saying the ruble was no good except for toilet paper. Now the Russians have one of the second largest gold hoards in the world. And by the way, it came out on World News. It's on my website. That Fort Knox, all of the gold, all $231 billion of it is leased. That means somebody else owns it. It's not in the possession of Fort Knox.
Steve, I've got information that there's nothing of value at Fort Knox. So the gold is gone, and it was gone since.
Oh yeah, I just said it. There's nothing there.
Okay.
There's nothing there. So anybody that wants to call our bluff, Doug, there's nothing. You see, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing there.
I mean,
it's all gone from
leased. I mean, no gold, no precious anything there.
Right.
Okay.
Leasing. When you lease gold, you take it in your possession. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So now I'm pretty much done with my. Send me an email, and when you send me an email, tell me what. This. There is no safe way to move into metals for independent storage. That independent storage, you really think the government doesn't know everybody in the country that's got their money stored with XYZ company? Remember, when it's in your hands, you own it and you can hide it. And you'd be surprised what an ounce of gold or one of those little pieces of 1 gram bar from a 50-gram bar of Alcambi's. Whoever designed that product was a genius because they knew what the future holds. And so you can just send me an email, steve777@stevequayle, and I'll get a hold of you on the weekend. Because, again, look, I hope we have time. It's like Augusto said. Augusto Perez, he said, we don't have a lot of time, a little time. But what people don't understand, and even the smartest guys from Sprott and all of these guys that are out there in the world know the day comes when it doesn't matter if you finally get it and want it. You can't get it. Get it now and get it while you can. And again, V said an important thing. I've had people get mad because they bought silver higher and now it's lower. But guess what? You've got it. And there's an $80 million lawsuit against a guy that used to be on talk radio and basically wasn't delivering gold and silver for a year. Or it doesn't matter if XYZ in a mint in The metals market is rife with that. My goal is to get it into your hands. Once in a while, we have screw-ups. Screw-ups meaning it takes a week, it takes 2 weeks, where it should take overnight in gold and 1 week with silver. But those are rare. And I'm worried, the most I'm worried about is when the shutdown finally happens, whether it's GridX or whatever down, your shot at getting anything, whether it's food, whether it's metals, whether it's water purifiers, what you name it, okay, it's over. So ladies and gentlemen, you've got a little bit of time. It's still, the night hasn't come, but we're approaching midnight. V, you can go ahead and take it, brother. I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, V, before you take it, I've got a lightning round series of questions when you're ready for them. These are questions I call a lightning round that would require just short answers. But go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead with what you want to lead out with.
Yeah, well, one of the things I always say is the fluctuations in the price of gold and silver is really not. And I need people to get this in their heads. It's really not the fluctuation of the actual price of the metal. The fluctuation is never in the metal. The fluctuation is in the currency. Understand that, okay? The fluctuation in the price of gold and silver and platinum and palladium is not in the metal. It's in the currency. In terms of leasing gold, give you a perfect example. Recently, one of the articles I put up about the BRICS. India leased about 200 or 270 metric tons of gold from the Bank of England. And all that is just basically a checkbook entry. That's it. It's just a balance book entry. No metal actually left the Bank of England and was shipped over to India. Never happened. That's the essence of leasing in the financial world. So when the Fed leases their gold out into, let's say, J.P. Morgan, nothing leaves the vault. It's just an entry made in the book with the full faith that the Fed actually has the gold. So when they leased out the gold in the federal in Fort Knox, gold is all gone. There's no gold in Fort Knox. All right? Fort Knox has never been audited, and every attempt to have it audited has been stonewalled. Okay? So there's no gold in Fort Knox. So when they lease out the $234 billion in gold, they're not. It's just checkbook entries. So what a bank does is they'll take that checkbook entry and they'll shop it around to investors, saying, "Oh, we back up this investment with X amount of gold." Meanwhile, the bank doesn't have the gold, and then the bullion bank doesn't have the gold, and the issuer doesn't have the gold. There's no gold. I mean, it's insane. It's all. I mean, it's like all of us sitting around having dinner, and I'm writing IOUs to all you guys, and you guys think I'm some sort of wealthy rich guy, and you start passing out my IOUs, okay, thinking that it has value. But in reality, is I'm broke. I don't have it. So it's the same situation. There's no gold. All people are like, oh, the bullion banks, they're long on gold. They're leasing all their gold now. It's a joke. Okay, there's no gold there to be leased. It's gone. The physical is gone. It's just a paper entry with the full faith that this issuer of the gold actually has the gold that they're issuing. So that's the charade on banking and how it works. I mean, you see the whole system is just it's a fantasy. For a lunatic. Only a madman will come up with an idea like this and call it reputable and honest. Okay?
Exactly.
Either you're a madman or you're a con man. And I can honestly say the evidence shows that these aren't madmen, but these are con men.
Wow. And they are exactly that. All right, V. I've got a number of questions here. I'm going to start with a couple of vague ones first, and then we can work toward the more specific ones.
Sure.
What would you consider what would you consider to be a serious silver stacker? I mean, what's a serious amount of silver to have for the average family? And I say average meaning just, wife, couple kids. The middle class, what would be described as a middle class family? I believe I know what stacker, stacker.
Yeah. How many ounces you need?
Yeah, I mean, what would you say? Yeah, what would you consider a good serious amount to start with?
For a middle class family, somebody who just pays their bills, lives paycheck to paycheck, has a little bit of money at the end of the month to go out to dinner or do something on the weekend with the kids. Somebody like that, apart from their food storage,
right?
I'd say about 1,000 ounces, is good. Okay. That's 2 monster boxes. That's about that has a value of about $20,000.
All right.
That's what I would say is a good amount, and that's something you can build up to over time. That's a pretty good situation. You got to understand silver is very heavy. I talked to one of my clients today. I had clients that have 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 ounces of silver. So you can imagine how many thousands of pounds of weight it is to move this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's also a logistical factor to silver, whereas you could take $3 million worth of gold and you can put it in a shoebox. I cannot even fathom trying to move $3 million worth of silver. Oh my God, so it's a nightmare.
Wow. Okay.
But somebody with, let's say you got $10,000 just lying around, and all your bills are paid, you're financially well off, you're okay, you got $10,000 or so lying around. I'd go out and get at least 500 ounces of silver. I'll get a monster box, $500. It's 500 ounces. Get a monster box. At least get a monster box.
Okay.
And keep it with you.
All right. Yeah, I think last week was the first, or 2 weeks ago was the first time I ever heard of a monster box of silver. Okay. Can you explain how many?
Hey, Doug. Let me explain what a monster box is.
Okay.
That's a term used specifically for silver eagles. Put out by the U.S. Mint. Okay. That's what they're called. They come in a green plastic box. Those usually run $2 an ounce more than the same ounce of silver, which is a silver round. A silver round is a 1 ounce silver coin the size of a silver dollar. Every ounce has to say 1 ounce on it, and it has to 'Doesn't make you can spend $2 more, but you're not going to sell something that's worth today, let's say $26, $27 for $1 just because it says $1 legal tender. So the point is if you're planning on that, what V said is good. I just want to correct the terminology. It's just like junk silver. The word junk silver doesn't mean it's not good silver. It just means it's prior to 1964 and earlier, dimes, quarters, and halves, not nickels. Dimes, quarters, and halves. That's called 90%. There's 715 ounces in a bag. A bag is for instance, if you've got a junk bag of halves, you'd have 2,000 halves. Or 1,000 face. If you've got a junk bag in quarters, it's 4,000 quarters. And today you're looking at about somewhere around 20 times face. So that means a $half is worth $10, and a quarter is worth $5, and a dime is worth $2. So those are the standard ways that people buy silver. I will say this: that having been in the market for 3 decades and being obviously not only a dealer but I trade my own account. The bottom line means is that I've seen the premium or the lack of availability on junk bags is probably the best, if you will, anecdotal sign that silver is drying up. And the point is that with all the suits going on and people, I get calls every day, and my answer to those people, I said, why didn't you call me first? $200, and he basically, this is the real case. I'm not making this up, okay? Or the person that's got 200,000 with a Colorado dealer, and now they're in a class action suit because they can't get it, and they waited like 6 months to even make a noise.
Wow.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, if the dealer can't deliver, it goes for me. You've got to get it in a reasonable amount of time. And like I say, there are the occasional glitches, but in gold, I ship gold overnight. Now, on weekends, it can't go out until the following thing. And when the suppliers get jammed up, it's interesting. Here's a phenomenon. People don't buy when gold or silver sells off. They only wait until it's setting. They'll buy more. Let's say gold goes up, moves up $50 a day versus moves $50 down a day. They'll buy more gold at $50 up a day than they will at down a day. If silver goes up, let's just say $1.50, they'll buy more when it's going up, and they'll buy less when it's going down. But here's what V's point is, and here's the deal. The manipulation of price has nothing to do with the availability, because gold and silver are priced in every currency of the world. And in some places, the premium to get gold and silver is, no pun intended, but astronomical. Because, again, India can try and keep its people from buying gold. They just go into silver. Ultimately, the Chinese are the smartest people in the world. Not only they're letting the floodgates free, and I mean this, they are the smartest people in the world. To my knowledge, I don't know if Russia's got the same. So the point is you've got the two largest gold possessors in the world. You've got the two major military powers in the world. And by the way, if you think America's numero uno, you're grossly mistaken. And then V, the last thing I'm going to say is when the Chinese successfully did their ASAT, which stands ASAT, that stands for anti-satellite weapon, okay, ASAT weaponry, and we're able to capture live satellites, that's the number one thing you watch as a defense analyst, because when they grab the satellites, and they can do it now, that means that they've already anticipated they will make their move on C3, command, control, and communication. And if I were people in the Pentagon, I quit being worried about the American citizen who still believes in the Constitution, the living God, and the Bill of Rights, and be more focused on guys that basically, to the degree you think you outgun the American citizens, wait until you see what they got planned for you. And for those of you training, to those of you in the military training with all these foreign forces, keep in mind, when God brings judgment, you think they'll be on your side? They'll turn on you. They will absolutely take you down. And as proof of that, two guys, I think in Georgia or Alabama, were watching a joint mission between Russians and U.S. soldiers. It may have been Georgia or Alabama, but one of them called me, and his friend spoke perfect Russian. And when the U.S. soldiers that were training with the Russians went away, the Russians broke in. And by the way, they speak what we're going to do to them once we have done to the others what they're hired for. And they're all trying to be buddy-buddy, and these guys were openly talking in Russian about how they're going to whack their U.S. counterparts. Now, for those of you listening into this, that goes for you. It doesn't matter how many stars, it doesn't matter how many stripes, it doesn't matter. They are going to do it. And you can say, that guy's crazy, but I'm telling you, Doug, you've got too many incidents, and we've got too many incidents coming in where that stuff is being spread. And by the way, some of them are so open, they're openly saying that. You see, America is dumb unto death. We've sown to the wind, now we're going to reap the whirlwind. Go ahead, V.
Well,
Yeah, Doug, you had
yeah. They're going to stick to, at least we'll say have a few months worth of money in a bank or credit union. Any difference between the two banks versus credit unions?
No, there's no difference whatsoever. It all runs on the same wires.
Okay. All right.
So it doesn't matter if it's a credit union or a bank. It's all runs on the same wire, same system.
All right. Now, this is an interesting question here from Butch from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, writes, during the government shutdown, or if we reach that October 17th date, whatever happens then, what happens to the bank's ability to be lent overnight funds?
the government has no relationship. The Fed is operable right now. I mean, today we spent about $65 billion while the government is quote-unquote shut down. So the thing is the Fed will continue to function. But that being said, the disruptions will be in essential government services, food stamps, welfare checks, Social Security checks, which is enough to create enough disruptions where you can create a good amount of civil havoc at that point.
Okay. Wow. All right. Here's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever heard either one of you talk about this. Diamonds, especially diamonds, are they a good protection of wealth?
With precious stones, I mean, they can be emeralds, rubies. Diamonds, I don't care for. I really don't. Look, diamonds are a joke, right? And anybody listening to me, I'll explain to you. Diamonds, okay, I can take you to when I was doing strategic metals, right? And that we were, extracting some of our mines from Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia. And there are mines, and diamond mines, and it's made of carbon.
Mm-hmm.
I can take a stick of peanut butter and put it into a high-pressure press and provide enough heat and pressure, and I can turn my stick of peanut butter into a beautiful diamond. Okay? The thing with diamonds is that it's artificial scarcity. De Beers owns most of the mines. All right? So if De Beers opened up their diamond mines tomorrow, broken glass will have more value than a diamond. Because that's the reality of diamonds. Right?
Wow.
Diamonds are not indestructible. They're actually brittle. They do chip. They do break. That's one thing you have to understand. But if you want to hold... Now, here's the thing. There's so much, quote-unquote, different types of stones in costume jewelries. How is somebody on the street, let's just say we're in a collapse situation, and I have a 3-carat diamond princess cut, E-color VVS1 diamond sitting in my coat pocket, and I need to buy food to feed my family. If I take my VVS1 E-color diamond with flawless clarity, okay, the diamond could be worth about $12,000 to $15,000-$20,000. And I take it to some guy on the street, hey, man, I want to buy a month's supply of food. He'll take that diamond and... If I take an ounce of gold, you better believe he understands that. If I take a couple of ounces of silver with me, and he sees 0.999 troy ounce, purity and one troy ounce, he'll definitely is ready to barter, ready to exchange. Heck, I could take a carton of cigarettes, a couple of bottles of Johnny Walker, Blue Label, and he's the guy who will be ready to trade. So, these are the options you have. So, in terms of like precious stones, I wouldn't bother. I really wouldn't. I think it's foolishness. Because of the simple fact in the collapsed environment, there's no way of determining that what you have is real or not, unless of course that guy.
asked before, and I'm glad you addressed that. Thank you very much for that. At this point, and I've been getting probably I must have, folks. We're not gonna have time to answer all of the questions. Thank you very much for sending them in. However, Chris T, I'll address yours separately off air. I'll write you an email. I'll just turn it back to UV. What should we be looking for? Any signs that we need to be looking for at this point? As Steve said, we go to bed on Friday, wake up on Monday, whole different world ahead of us. Anything that we should be looking for to
I mean, again, we're that bus that's on the ledge. You know, we've fallen off the ledge. We're on an outcropping, this ledge that's kind of broken our fall into the complete abyss over here. So the next sign to look at is just continued cracking of the economy. I wouldn't bother looking at the Dow. I would it's getting very difficult for the average Joe to follow what's going on really with the markets, especially market news. The things you have to continue to watch. I mean, look, it's not off the radar, folks. Japan is still there. It hasn't gone any. That's an issue. The currency crisis in Asia is another issue. Look for those things to exacerbate itself. Look for, you've seen from my German sources have told me that Merkel stole the election, so look for more Eurocentric policies that will gut the German economy thanks to the ECM, European Stability Mechanism. And, those are things to look for. Look for the interest rates to climb even higher. As it's right now, we are QE to infinity. There was talks about a December taper. That's what they're talking about. Look, if they talk about a December taper, look for another attempt at a false flag. If that doesn't occur, it's going to be business as usual with fine. It's multiple things coming at you at 180 miles an hour. You got things moving at you at Bugatti Veyron-like speeds, and you need to really get a grasp that it's not one sign anymore. It's multiple things. You talk about in the military, they talk about force multiplication. Well, this is what's happening. You have so many economic events that are occurring at the same time that information is becoming force multiplied. Now is the time to prepare. You can't sit around watching for something to move. You got to move now. That's what I said earlier. You got to have skin in the game now. The time for sitting on the fences, it's over.
Thank you. And that's right. And Steve, I just want to say this. I just got this. Michael, thank this. These numbers, the numbers saying 19.5, and things. I just got an email from Michael. Who said Josh Tolley, who's got a radio show, a very successful radio show, was talking today. As you mentioned, the Capitol Shield 14 drill was held in D.C. the same day when the Miriam Carey ran the barricades. But something else that he mentioned was rather interesting. The Navy Yard shooter, Aaron Alexis, and Miriam
I know Hawk has covered it. I've covered it. The entire Manchurian Candidate. How is it that this woman is thought Obama was communicating with her? You know, I mean, these people are hearing real sounds, ladies and gentlemen. These are not delusional people, okay? And the thing that people don't understand is, wasn't that the same thing the other day? The guy heard voices in the head. The neurophone, neurophone, infrasound. They can put anything, and most people don't know. This is a real guy's name. You'd think it was a vodka manufacturer, but Igor Smirnov was at the Branch Davidian, a Russian, one of the most expert guys in the world on this. His real name is Smirnov. You can Google it. And right now from the Lord comes or originates that's different than your normal thought pattern, a vain imagination that exalts itself against the knowledge of the Son of God. So if you get a thought, let's say we're praying one minute and all of a sudden you hear God is dead, He doesn't love you, or Jesus is alive, any thought that's contrary to the Word of God, you better understand that these guys have the technology on cell phone towers and HD TV. When I first started talking about this, Doug, that was 10 years ago. When I first started talking about GWEN, Ground Wave Early Warning Network System, GWEN, that's the acronym, people just couldn't handle it. Now we've got cell towers, within every quarter mile. When they turn those things on, by the way, they're more than just cell towers. At a certain frequency, you go to sleep. At a certain frequency, you become a zombie. Their word, not mine. So when I see the shooting victim thought Obama was communicating with her, that tells me that a black op most likely had singled her out. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not a very difficult jump for you. What is it that the two last dead people who basically were murdered, and or the murderer or the murdered became agitated, and they both claimed they were hearing thoughts in their head? Does that not tell you that there is a thread of truth running or at least something that's unique or unusual? Doug, it's my contention that this is how they're going to start the civil war in this country.
Wow.
The amount of money gone in. Now, hear me, everyone. No one else has said this that I know of. They will agitate. Do you think summer produces a long, hot summer? And specified waveforms, if you will. You can actually watch them on a high-tech oscilloscope, and it's more than an oscilloscope, but you can watch them. Brainwave activity. So it's my contention that they're ratcheting it up. The rhetoric is ratcheting it up. The, quote, racism, and I believe that the racism, the argument against it absolutely screams out about those who are claiming it. The racism is, basically, I'll tell you what it all boils down to, is that the division in this country, Jesus said, house divided cannot stand, and I make the statement, I've made it for 20 years, so it's nothing new. America will not stand. It's being split apart, and it's being split apart in the psychological, in the emotional, in the physical, and soon to be the geological. It's all going to be split. And ladies and gentlemen, divide and conquer, that's what they plan to do. That's why they're taking the kids away. You take a man's kids away, and that man will do anything. He'll become compliant. Either that, or he'll flip out and become like George C. Scott in the movie Rage, when they killed his son with a biological experiment. If you've never seen that movie, you should rent it. Rage with George C. Scott. You'll see basically the government lying into it until the guy figures out no one else but them, and then you watch Payback. Payback can be a bitch. I'm sorry for the word, but that's what the slogan is.